UCLA men's basketball has been up and down this year. KJ joins to tell us the scoop, and the women's team, they look like a dominant team once again here this upcoming season.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, joined once again by Kris Johnson of those four letters, national champion with the last national championship UCLA winning men's basketball team. And, of course, he does here district. He's got many hats today. He wears the B for the Bruins and the four letters of UCLA. Thanks for tuning into this podcast. Welcome back, everydayers. You're listening to Locked On UCLA, part of the #1 sports podcast network out there with Locked On. But let's get right into it. We're talking UCLA women's basketball at the end, all the good stuff. We'll dive into UCLA Arizona specific matchups in segment 2. But we have to start, Kris, with this inconsistent part of UCLA. They haven't been blowing out teams in the beginning of the season. I asked for big matchups. Mick Cronin says, we're not ready for that. What are your thoughts? Lay it on me.
I have mixed thoughts. So, I mean, from what you've seen from the early season, as far as the Bruins, you saw a different level of lock-in in the exhibition season. And then the regular season started. And I think as fans and observers, we were kind of let down. We were hoping that the squad would carry over some of that focus, some of that intensity. But again, it's early in the season. That's the one thing you always have to keep in mind, Zach. It's ebbs and flows, ups and downs, and I'm still high on this team. Xavier Booker, the questions about him, his development at the 5 are starting to materialize. Now, granted, he hasn't played against a legitimate just beast down low, somebody that's, on a draft board or something like that. But from what we've seen from him, he has improved exponentially in the 5 or so games that they've played total. I guess, what is it, 3 and 2? I don't know.
If you include the exhibitions, it'd be 5, yeah.
5 games. So you got 5-game sample of where he started to where he is. Now, from what I've seen, and I'm basing my outlook on the Bruins long term based on it's directly tied to his development. Like if he could get live, which means, and what is live? I mean, you see the stretches, he's blocking shots, he's running the floor, he's getting the dunks, he's knocking down the threes. Now, if he can get into this mode of doing that and then also making the right reads defensively, sometimes he gets caught out on the perimeter trying to guard guys. He's used to being out there. He doesn't, kind of second nature. Just once you're used to being on the perimeter, you gravitate there. Now he's our last line of defense. So he's got to understand that part of it, that he's the last line. He's the guy in the hole. He's got to protect the rim and control the paint. If he can get to a point where he's a monstrous type dude, which, against some of these smaller size frontline teams, he's been in spurts. I think the Bruins ceiling is through the roof.
The question I have for you, KJ, to follow up on that is he going to be unfairly judged because Aday Mara's start at Michigan has been pretty outstanding? Like, I'm going to unfairly judge him. Is he going to be unfairly judged because Mara is dominating?
Great question, Zach. I think we shouldn't base our opinion of Xavier Booker on Aday Mara's historical start to the 25-26 basketball season. Look, Aday, he's gone. We have to get over it. It's hard for me personally. I love the Aday. I still have a special place in my heart for Aday Mara. He was the missing piece to this team. I mean, it hurts us and makes us sick in the stomach if you are a true blue fan, in the sense that, man, he could be doing this for us.
And he was he was our guy that we found. We found him. We got him.
Well, yeah, and Mick committed a considerable amount of resources to Aday. Spent a lot of time with Aday. I remember Mick going on Colin Cowherd a few years ago, talking about Aday, his relationship with Aday, how it was Aday's birthday and he invited him over for paella and did all that. So as somebody that's spent time with head coaches and understand that part of it in college basketball, those moments mean a lot. Those moments mean a lot for Aday. Those moments mean a lot for Mick. And so what we saw in their breakup and the way it went down and how pissed Mick was about everything and sort of kind of throwing Aday under the bus in a little bit, kind of telling everybody what was up. You saw people that were hurt, man, because you spent so much time and your belief in a guy, and for whatever the reasons were, Aday didn't want to stick around. He goes to Michigan, has this incredible start. Us as UCLA fans are looking at Xavier Booker through the lenses of, man, he's got to be able to be a true center and play the nuances of the center position, at least to a level to help us obviously get to a championship level type basketball, but on the level of an Aday Mara. Yes, so it hurts, man. All that to be said, it hurts, but I don't think we should, as fans and observers, really base our opinion on X, because X, man, was a McDonald's All-American. He still has a high ceiling. He still, the light still could come on for Xavier Booker. Now, it's going to take a little longer. We saw how long it took Aday, 3 seasons. 3 years for Aday to get this point. Obviously, he's got 37 minutes, which I don't think he ever played at UCLA. He might have. We got to check that. But regardless, that production that he's got off at Michigan, he's throwing lobs to guys. He's playing with the monumental front line. He's has one of the most talented teams in the country. For him to stand out like that, it's got to hurt. I mean, it hurts, but we're still focused on Xavier Booker's development.
And when you're speaking, all I kind of heard of was like in the college sense, it felt like a small scale version of like how the Lakers got Luka. It just kind of felt like how UCLA, they lost a star in the making. Obviously, very different situation, but that's kind of how it feels in a college sense in a smaller version.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, the guy, he's a high caliber player. He's rocketing up the draft boards. He's on everybody's now he's getting thrown in the lottery talk. He's everything that everyone at UCLA knew he would be. It just was going to take time. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for us here in Westwood.
But speaking of working out, the Bruins went out, got one of the best transfers in Donovan Dent. What is your view of him? What's your thoughts of Donovan Dent so far through 2 games, maybe 4 if you include the exhibitions? He sat out the West Georgia game. Does he seem like he's Mick Cronin ready? We know he's big time, but is he Mick Cronin ready defensively, ready to handle the basketball and score in multiple ways?
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, my impressions of Donovan Dent have been he's been one of the guards at UCLA, right? That you kind of, when he has the ball, when he's pushing the pace, when he's controlling tempo, he's being the maestro out there. You have a sense of calm, of confidence, of, yeah, we're about to get a score, or we're going to get something good. I mean, that feeling, it for a UCLA fan who has seen walk through those Pauley Pavilion halls, some of the greatest guards in the history of basketball, like, we know the feeling of a good PG. So we know what time it is, and Donovan gives us that feeling. Now, is he Mick Cronin ready? Yeah. I mean, you heard him in the offseason. I mean, he's this is a guy that had a pre-existing relationship with Mick. Mick has a relationship with his head coach. They're all aligned. They're all on the same page. It's like one of those things, Donovan is like, the one hot chick that you missed out on or couldn't really do anything with early on, but later on she kind of blossomed and developed into something that you had no expectation that she would be, and then you have another chance. You're going to operate on a level of where you guys see eye to eye. You're going to not coddle, but you're going to make sure that thing's going to work out. This is what you really have wanted. Look, Mick's gone through Dylan Andrews. That experience for him probably wasn't the most pleasant. Sebastian Mack. I mean, these kind of guys handling the ball, making plays, making decisions isn't necessarily the guys that, Mick Cronin wanted to. He's got a guy now that does everything that he likes, loves. The defensive side of things, Donovan definitely needs to improve upon, but I don't foresee him. I think he's the kind of guy that as we start ramping up in competition, we're going to start to see the truly elite nature of his skill set he's going to start standing out. There's a reason why he's who he is, right? So when we play against Arizona tomorrow, right, Jaden Bradley and these other guards that they got that he's got to match up with, he's going to stand out. You're going to see why he's ranked the number whatever, arguably the top point guard in the country. That's going to mean something. That means something on the college basketball level. That's going to mean something tomorrow against Arizona. I think it's going to mean something for the long-term success of UCLA this season. He is the key. He is the engine that makes this thing go. It was nice to see the Bruins rally the troops and get a win against West Georgia, though, without him.
And here's the final point on that topic right there. I think other recruits, other transfers, whether it's now or obviously later when the portal opens, they're kind of looking at this because Cronin gets a bad rap for maybe he chased Mara left. People aren't going to know that full story. They're going to have questions about Cronin. But when they go out and they spend a pretty penny to bring in Donovan Dent and he blossoms and flourishes, that's going to continue to maintain UCLA as a destination spot in the portal and be like, hey, if you mistreat Donovan Dent, why should we go here? But if he comes here and he flourishes and still plays well, that makes sure recruits think, yeah, Mick Cronin's still a guy to play for. Even if he's as demanding as he is, he's still worth it to come to UCLA and play under those 4 letters.
Yeah, it definitely helps the reputation overall nationally for Mick if this thing works out the way that we all hope think it should.
And the big thing is, speaking of reputation, national reputation, that's going to get even bigger because UCLA's taking on Arizona. Are the Bruins ready to take down number 5 in the country? KJ and I will discuss next on Locked On UCLA. It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For UCLA, we're talking Trent Perry. He delivered in a big way against West Georgia, put up 17 and 9. Big-time breakout performance for the sophomore UCLA guard. And when the pressure was on, Perry came through. No hesitation, no delay. And we've been watching week after week, year after year. You can see this performance was not a fluke. It was building and building. And now Perry, he's on a streak. And just like Trent Perry delivering for UCLA, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season. You can save up to $250 on $100 with DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period available through November 18th. The early season matchup everybody's been waiting for. UCLA, Arizona, this time in the Intuit Dome. The Bruins taking on number 5 Arizona, their first big-time matchup after 3 somewhat cupcakes. The Bruins are 3-0. Arizona, though, has a big-time win over then number 3 Florida. What have you seen so far out of Arizona that could scare UCLA, KJ, heading into this big-time matchup?
Well, they've got a lot of individual talent that are playing very well together as a unit. I mean, anytime you can beat a well-coached squad that is a defending national champion, the way that they were able to execute down the stretch against Florida, I mean, I think that win was, it put everyone in the country on notice that Arizona's for real. This may be Tommy Lloyd's most talented squad that he's had at Arizona, and that's saying a lot. The keys, I feel like, is for the Bruins against the Cats in this type of game, man, is you're going to have to deal with some serious physical talent on the front court if you're UCLA. So Tyler Bilodeau, Xavier Booker, Eric Daly Jr. are going to be of utmost importance, right? Because they got to deal with KOA PEAT, Big Krivas, the 7'2" Lithuanian, and then they got another guy named Awaka, who's another 6'7", jumping, buff, strong, dunking type dude in the key. And then their guards. I mean, the Wayne Aristod, a guy that we were trying to grab during the offseason, he's 7 of 4, 11 from 3. He's killing
6 of 9 versus Arizona, Northern Arizona, knocked down from 3.
Buckets, pure shooter, buckets, absolutely getting to it. But then you got Anthony Del Orso, big, tall, long, 6'6" guard. Defensively can give you problems. Offensively has been really solid from a points per possession perspective. And then there's Jaden Bradley running the show, 12 of 15 in the paint this season. High efficiency, really at a high level right now, over almost 1.5 points per possession every time he touches the ball. I mean, they got a lot and they got confidence. And UCLA but has the upper hand in the point guard scenario. So for UCLA to win this game, they're going to have to control the tempo. They're going to have to win the war on the glass. They're going to have to keep the Cats off the offensive glass, and they're going to have to do something about KOA PEAT. So that for me, that means Bilodeau. That means Bilodeau or Daly. I mean, one of those two guys has got to man up and take the challenge and wrestle and fight this guy for 40 minutes. If they can neutralize PEAT and control and slow down some of those guys on the perimeter, which West Georgia is kind of showing us that at this state of the game, our closeout game is not really that up to par, and we're not making the proper reads defensively and actually reacting quick enough, in my opinion, to really well. We didn't react quick enough. If that was going to be the way we're going to play on Friday against West Georgia, we'll get blown out the building. And so a lot of what people may or may not have been hearing today out of practice, a lot of quotes, right? Mick Cronin talking about you better hit somebody. He's in people's behinds. He's got his foot in behinds, talking stuff. You know, they're going to run us out the building. Eric Daly Jr. was hyped. He had a lot of quotes that the reporters were saying that was going on. So what that tells me, from a person that's played Arizona 8 times in my career, it's a high pressure game. There's a lot of pressure on folks, so they're taking this game serious. Arizona can be in the Big 12. We can be playing in Intuit Dome, but the rivalry doesn't change. The history doesn't change, and it's going to take our best game up to this point in the season to beat Arizona tomorrow night.
And the big thing is, not like conference season in years past. You don't get Arizona twice this year, barring an NCAA tournament battle. You get once, and that's almost like football. You hold that win for the rest of the year, and it builds your resume. Yeah. I'm kind of sour. You talk about long-term view about UCLA. You look after their first 3 games, it doesn't look like this is a game UCLA is ready to play right now, KJ. The only thing I'm holding on to is Arizona's leaning on a lot of freshmen. Now, they have some veterans, right? They have their Jaden Bradleys. They have the likes of Adele Orso in that lineup. But I'm leaning on UCLA having some of the most returning production scoring-wise, starting-wise, compared to Arizona, who I believe starting, close to 3 freshmen in their starting lineup. KOA PEAT's a big guy. You have Braden Burris, who UCLA was in on for a little bit. He had a big game in game 2. What is UCLA, veteran-wise, going to be able to take advantage of versus a very freshman-oriented Arizona team?
Yeah, these guys, and what we have to we got to look at freshmen through different lenses now. These guys aren't normal freshmen. First of all, they're older. Braden Burris is darn near 20 years old. So he's 19. He's big. He's strong. He's not like a typical freshman. He's played at a very high level of basketball. Team USA, off-season, whether it be, whatever AAU circuits he's been on, but he's always been at the cream of the crop. KOA PEAT the same way, right? He's a national team guy. He's used to playing at a very high level. Now, as far as Braden Burris and the seasons he's having, he's getting up a lot of shots, but he's not knocking them down at a clip that is conducive to show him a ton of respect on the perimeter. He's shooting at about 37-38% from the field this season. KOA PEAT, on the other hand, is in a different boat. When you drop 30 on that floor of the front line, he is someone you are going to have to be concerned about at all times. He can do it on the glass. He can catch lobs. He's a vertical threat, but he also has some floor game. He also has some post game. He also has some really good footwork and some rebounding prowess that could be a problem for UCLA if we don't pay attention to things like blocking out, winning the war of the trenches, really taking a football type Michigan State mentality. The stuff Stephen Jamerson does out there, we're going to need to do for the whole game. I think the advantage that we could have, though, is our ability to stretch those guys out. So when you talk about Xavier Booker becoming a factor in this game, Krivas is going to have to guard him. He's going to have to step out on the perimeter. Krivas is like 7'2", 300 pounds trying to move around. He's not moving like he was moving last year. I think he's still rounding into form. But I think Xavier Booker's, like I said, is going to have one of those kind of game change, monumental, kind of like open everybody's eyes type game. He's going to have to knock down threes. He's going to have to be a vertical threat offensively, but then defensively, he's going to have to be the one to block shots, set the tone, and make those guys think twice.
Yeah, it seems like last year Eric Daly Jr. was the guy who kind of went through that transformation, scoring from the wing, kind of helping out defensively, and it's really turning into Booker has to make a similar transition to be a big impact guy for UCLA to win in the post.
Yeah, no question about it, man. He's our 5. So he's our 5-man. So in the major college level, if you got a guy that was a 4-man, that was stretched for no less, now trying to be a 5, that's an area of concern. So for developmental wise, his development is the single most important factor or key to UCLA's success this season.
And the other thing I'm looking into, in recent years under Mick Cronin, UCLA hasn't always been ready to play these games early. Like last year, they played New Mexico, and Donovan Dent and the Lobos controlled that game before the Bruins figured it out in late December, mid to late January.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago when they won the Pac-12, you had that UCLA team that lost back-to-back games to Baylor and Illinois, if I'm not mistaken, before they went on a long stretch. And that was even with the veteran team, mind you, back then when they won the Pac-12. What makes you think that this team is prepared differently to win an early November game where Mick Cronin secretly is wanting a butt kicking so he can kind of tell them, hey, we've got to get much better in practice, like he's been doing?
Nah, you don't need no more. You don't need no regular season butt kickings on purpose. You don't need no rivalry type. Going to affect your net rating and going to affect your tournament seeding. This is the real deal. The lights are on. It's Arizona. We're in Inglewood. It's time to go. There's no lessons being learned. Practice. We're going to teach you a lesson in practice. You know what I'm saying? Like we take West Georgia cupcakes, games that don't matter. We can do that act, but when the games start to matter and count, that act is gone. It's about manning up. Look, you make some good points about the past, but one thing you have to also take into consideration about this year's team. Mick Cronin has never had a caliber point guard that he has now in Donovan Dent. So he's never had, I don't care what anyone says, he's never had a guy this good. He's never had a point guard this good. This guy single-handedly could keep us in games. He's going to be able to control things and get us looks offensively. And that's the other thing. Arizona's going to have to guard us. Okay, I know I'm high on Arizona. I always do that when I'm scouting, a team and I'm talking about them. But they're going to have to guard us. Bilodeau's going to be able to stretch out some people. People going to have to move their feet. Eric Daly Jr. is playing with a bounce in his step. Trent Perry just had the best game of his career. He's someone I think is going to have a big game against Arizona. There's a lot of, just history there, just being from Southern California. Arizona obviously recruited him, and then some of those guys on that team over there he's very familiar with. This is one of those games where our guard Sky Clark is going to be huge against Arizona's taller guards because he's going to be able to get under guys defensively, and if he can be any semblance of the catalyst that he can be on the defensive side of things for 40 minutes, man, it's going to be a dogfight. So I that's what makes me think that this iteration of the Bruins, this iteration of Mick Cronin's UCLA can compete with anybody in the country. We got some guards that are absolute dogs. So college basketball for me, if you got two dogs as guards, we got like three of them. Man, you can do some special things. It just really depends on meshing, gelling, finding that right combination, and really just nurturing that.
And as long as Donovan Dent is healthy, he's supposed to be ready to go and able to play. Coach Cronin said, yes, Dent will be playing versus Arizona, and we'll get the best. I feel like we haven't seen the best. We haven't seen Dent turn it on. Not that he's had to, but it feels like you definitely level up when you get better competition, and I think we'll probably get closer to an A performance from Dent. And I would like to see Sky Clark hit a bunch of threes in this game, kind of showcase that three-point stroke that he had at the end of last season when he was really figuring it out.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's going to take a total team effort, right? Even the bench, like guys coming in have got to contribute. They've got to be
Brandon Williams.
Got to have a positive contribution on the game, whether it be, and a lot of this is going to be dirty work, right? Offensive rebounds, tips, deflections, diving on the floor for loose balls, securing the UCLA Bruins another possession. That is going to be the name of this game. Which team is going to be able to have the most second possessions or the most possessions on one time when they go down, offensive rebounds, whatever, loose balls, whatever it is, whoever wins that battle, I think is going to win the game.
And it'll be a huge win. If UCLA wins this game, then they could be well on their way to a top 10 ranking in the next week's ranking because UCLA has already slipped a little bit. You win this game, you're going to get yourself a huge boost in bracketology, net rankings, a huge good boost in the committee meetings later in the year. So UCLA needs this one early with what is kind of a lackluster non-conference schedule other than Arizona and Gonzaga.
Yeah, it's pretty important. It's pretty important to get the win. Again, it's not the end of the world if you lose, but like you're saying, I mean, this is one of those games that could really help you later on in March.
We'll talk about next the UCLA women who are clicking in all cylinders, about a top 3 team that I think will eventually become number 1 in the country. We'll see if KJ agrees with me, but they're talented and they're still hurt with a couple of players out. We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. The NBA is back, college basketball is back, everything is back because there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And if you miss even the start of the game or you just want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. According to FanDuel's line, UCLA is plus 2.5 points, an underdog against Arizona in the Intuit Dome. If you like UCLA, if you like the other guys, hammer that line. UCLA plus 2.5 against Arizona on FanDuel. Because right now, new customers with FanDuel get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The UCLA women coming off a dominant performance against Oklahoma. This episode will air after their North Carolina win or loss. I expect win, but we will not talk about that because this will be recorded prior to the North Carolina game. I have a separate reaction for that. But KJ, UCLA looked pretty solid against Oklahoma in their first couple of games. UCLA's looked pretty dominant, and they've had a fair share of spreading out the wealth, even without Sienna Betts, without Tamia Gardner, who are both out hurt as of this recording. What have you liked so far about the UCLA women?
I've liked the offensive balance. I've liked the fact that although Lauren Betts hasn't had necessarily like monster games, that UCLA has been able to win handily against some quality opponents. San Diego State was solid. UCSB is well coached. And this Oklahoma team was really, really good. I mean, this Oklahoma team had some players. I mean, from Reagan Beers to Sahara Williams, the do-it-all forward, and the guard Van, and then Verhulst, the shooter. You had some people out there that were charged up from the jump ball. I mean, Aaliyah Chavez, nation's #1 point guard. UCLA recruited her. We were in with her. I think we made her top 5. She chose Oklahoma. They gave her $1 million. First play of the game, Kiki Rice throws her stuff out of bounds, block, does the flex to the crowd. I think that kind of set the tone. And what I mean by, and what I've seen all season, is UCLA women have played with sort of a chip on their shoulder. So Coach Close talked about it in the preseason about how offensively, yeah, we're there, but defensively, she had some questions. And I think nationally, the sort of perception and the scuttlebutt around UCLA women's basketball is that they might not be the toughest crew in the country. And, you know, some people said they were overrated. So I think that the young women have taken that to heart, and they're out to show and compete defensively and show folks that they are for real, that they are real athletes, that they can move. I mean, you couldn't have told me that, you know, when people looked at Charlize Ledger-Walker sliding in the backcourt with Kiki Rice, that, you know, they would have Charlize coming off a knee injury, that she would have this impact defensively, where she's had like 3, I don't know how many steals she has on the season, but she's had multiple steal games. Her presence has also allowed Kiki to do what she does best, which is attack and get downhill. Now, Kiki hasn't shot it at a high percentage. I feel like it might be some lingering effects mentally from the shoulder surgery from off season, but the fact that her style of play is where it is right now, I'm tremendously excited for the prospects, because they're only going to refine this situation. And we didn't even talk about Gianna Kneepkens. Kneepkens has been, without a doubt, the best signing of the portal offseason. She has not missed a beat with this team. She picked up where she left off with Team USA. I watched 3 or 4 of their games this summer. She played with some of the nation's top talent on that team, fit in seamlessly, and was one of the best players. She's doing that now. She's showing off the entire scope of her bag. A lot of people had this perception that Kneepkens was just a shooter. She can push that ball. She can make decisions moving at a fast pace, and she competes defensively, and she's physical. And for me, looking at her, Gabriela Jaquez, how she started off the season, 8 rebounds and I think 3 games this year already, knocking down her 3, hit 4 threes in a game, shooting the ball the best of her ability, but also attacking the rim with just purpose and getting there and concentrated and finishes. I mean, for me, it's like her, Kiki, It looks like they spent the offseason really refining their game off the bounce. And the only questions I kind of have, obviously, with the injuries, is can Angela Dugalich be the Angela Dugalich that she was against Oklahoma? Angela, although she had what did contribute in very solid fashion, she had 4 blocks, I believe, in the first game of the year. Um, the threes, can she continue to knock down and have confidence in shooting those long range bombs, let alone the 15 rebounds? We talked about it off camera, the behind the back, pushing it full court. I mean, this is a 6-year senior. She's highly experienced internationally. She was on she was on ESPN's mock draft last season to go, I think, in the second round of the draft. She could have had an opportunity to play professional basketball, decided to come back to UCLA. And in her, you have a real wild card, because as we saw against Oklahoma, she neutralized the young lady Sahara Williams, who, for anybody that watched that game, I'm not sure if you've watched, no matter how long you've watched women's basketball, that was one of the rarest athletes that I've seen play the women's game for her height, her size, and then her ability to move. I mean, it looked like she could play on Sundays in the NFL, middle linebacker. And for Angela to neutralize that, I mean, that's a heck of a luxury for Coach Close to have. Like you mentioned it, Tamia Gardner's out, Sienna Betts is out. That they're all going to be in Angela's spot, right? So they're all, how Corey Close manages that, balances that part of the rotation when those 2 young ladies get back is going to be key for the Bruins.
Yeah, and if you listen to any of the stats KJ spit now, it's because I'm not a hater, but I'm not like the not biggest fan, but I just didn't believe in Dugalich's ability, and she definitely shut me up. And
Yeah,
I think there's fair to have some criticism, but in a big game, early national spotlight, when the bench is kind of minimal right now, it's youth behind Dugalich or whoever comes off the bench until Sienna Betts, and when Gardner come off the bench, when they come back from injury, it's kind of a short bench right now. So Dugalich is going to get a lot of run and work herself into a lot of minutes. And if she plays well, that's another, as you mentioned, wild card, I might say X factor. If she's hitting threes, that's another player that you have to spread the floor for instead of packing it in on Lauren Betts, which is what UConn did, which is what other teams did, and neutralize what UCLA's bread and butter was, feeding it to Lauren Betts. Lauren Betts hasn't even dominated just yet, and she hasn't had to, and UCLA's coasted to 3 easy victories.
Yeah, and to further your point about Dugalich, experience means something. And so her 6-year senior, that means something. She's just not some regular 6-year senior that's been hurt her whole career and has had to redshirt 3 or 4 times. I mean, she just played for Serbia this offseason for I don't know how many international caps she has, but it's a lot. And so that type of talent in the women's game is going to impact the game somehow, some way. She just has to stay locked into her role. And that's the part that I love about this UCLA women's basketball team. I think roles have been defined. I think they are defined. I think they've been embraced. I think we all have an understanding that Gianna Kneepkens is going to be a go-to of sorts for the Bruins offensively. Last season, that, in my opinion, was one of our biggest deficiencies, was having a perimeter player outside of Kiki Rice that could break down defenses, score baskets, and make plays when the defense converged. That's Kneepkens. That's what she can do. Jaquez can do that. As we saw Dugalich do it at the Fort, although we don't want her doing that all the time, but she has that capability. And so I think that but the fact that you have Ledger Walker and Rice as your backcourt, 2 very savvy, high IQ point guards, right? I mean, gosh, and then one goes out, and then the other takes over the ball handling duties. I think that, in my opinion, it's similar to UCLA in the sense, except that with Dent and Clark, except that you're talking about Rice and Ledger Walker. So Ledger Walker, a 4-time All Pac-12, Kiki Rice, the #1 player in the country, all Big Ten, you know what I mean? Led the team to a Final Four last year, playing out of position at the point guard, if you will. So I think that luxury will help offset some of this short bench, Zach. I think that the short bench thing is definitely something I'm still concerned about. When you see Lena Billage come in the game and play like a freshman and make freshman mistakes and things like that. And you realize that the only people you have left are Megan Grant, I believe, the softball player, and then
Yep.
Christina, the young lady from Sweden. And then it's like, man, that's it. That's all we got. Like, but make no mistake. We do have Amanda Muse. I'm not just about to just act like Amanda Muse hasn't been impressive this early part in the season, doing what she does, rim running the floor, being a presence as a 6'4" athlete. But we need some help. We need a little bit more reinforcements on the guards, so we're going to have to see a lot of usage out of the current guards and forwards that we have.
What I liked about the UCLA-Oklahoma matchup was that Oklahoma had an early lead. They were playing pretty well. And
Oh, yeah.
UCLA still was like, yeah, we're going to win this game by like 15 points. And it didn't even matter. Oklahoma scored less than 60. They were scoring pretty well early. Oklahoma had over 20 plus points in the first quarter. After that first quarter, the Sooners didn't score even 15 points in a 10-minute stretch during that game. And the Bruins won that game going away. That's what I liked, saying, hey, you know what? Let's actually just win this going away. Not a 30-point blowout, but comfortably in a game they trailed early.
Yeah. I mean, I think it speaks to the veteran makeup of this roster. They're able to say, hey, on the huddle, bring it in. Hey, let's start getting some stops around here. That's what they did. And they did it. And then they started getting scores. But I think it was the physical nature of the game that, really kind of wore down Oklahoma, if you will. They tried to, bring the physicality to the Bruins. The Bruins did not relent. The Bruins are in extremely good shape and are a lot stronger as a
They're a lot
team.
bigger, too, because you have Ledger Walker, you have Kneepkens. Those are bigger players than running out London Jones or even Charisma Osborne a couple years ago. They're bigger at those guard positions.
We have size at the guard positions and strength. And so I think that is going to be something to keep an eye on because it neutralizes a lot of times the quickness. Like the young lady Van for Oklahoma. She was quick. She was bouncy, quick twitch. She was really good. But we were able to get in her body and render her at times ineffective.
Yeah, and I was thinking, wait, Aaliyah Chavez is pretty big because Kneepkens is
Yeah,
6 feet. Chavez is a little bit bigger than that. And she can move
yeah.
as a guard, one of the top players. And the Bruins are like, yeah, who's Aaliyah Chavez, right? And that's if you look at the boxer, like you'll see Verholst and you'll see Reagan Beers and all that. And the Bruins like, yeah, the story is actually Gianna Kneepkens. And on any given night, Ledger Walker can go do something similar if she needs to. Kiki Rice, Lauren Betts, and somebody else can do that. Not many teams can boast a lineup that have close to 4 to 5 players that can put out a National Player of the Week worthy performance on any given night.
You have 5 players in that lineup that you just named: Rice, Ledger Walker, Kneepkens, Jaquez, and Betts. That can give you 30. That can give you 25. That could take over a game on both ends of the floor. See, that's the difference. They can make defensive plays. They can make offensive plays. They can knock down shots. They can take it to the rack. They can hit the mid-range. We can be on the rebounding. We can get some steals. We can get some stops. I mean, the key, though, for those 5, the key, staying healthy, really managing their just their expending how much energy they do, because you don't have a lot of people behind them, but you can't play the game without giving everything you got. You still, because hey, I don't got a sub, so no, you still got to give it your all. You just got to get in better shape. That's the thing that stood out for me. I feel like that this UCLA women's basketball team did a ton of work off season and came into this season in supreme condition. I mean, it stood out to me, their ability to sustain defensively in every game they've played has shown me. They've always had a pep in their step at the end of the game. It hasn't just looked like some wilting team just keeling over as another team, kind of just starts to go on a run.
My hot take, KJ, is this team is going to overtake UConn for #1 in the country. I don't know if that's true. I think UCLA has a much tougher non-conference schedule that UConn does because UConn has to go to USC without Juju. Some of their biggest games are at home for UConn. Not that they have a weak schedule, but UCLA, I think, is a little bit tougher non-conference wise, potentially, if they get to play South Carolina in Thanksgiving. But
Yeah.
I do think UCLA can
No,
overtake UConn if they win all these games.
yeah, that's the only way, because the voters are UConn biased and they are LSU lovers and they love South Carolina. And so off top, we are the odd people out in these rankings. To be number 3 or to be number 1 is the shock. Like, I'm surprised last year we were number 1. I'm surprised they didn't want to put somebody else that was up there. It doesn't matter, just on the strength. But all that aside, at the end of the day, when I was in UCLA, we didn't get into the rankings. I know that they're important for fans and observers, but as a player, you're just focused on beating the people in front of you, getting better every single day. I think Coach Close and her staff have the young ladies locked in to what their goals are and what their objective is this season. And that Oklahoma game was a nice little stepping stone. Let's see what the rest of this November gauntlet looks like and what it brings out of the women's basketball team.
Yes, they'll have played a top 10 worthy North Carolina, South Florida. They'll play Texas, who's just top 5. They'll play South Carolina potentially, or a Duke, who's top 10 worthy. By the way, there's Tennessee lurking around the corner at the end of November. That is a crazy November schedule if I've ever seen one. But it's great as always to have Kris Johnson. Those 4 letters, check out his content written. Anything he puts on the Twitter Xverse, any breakdowns he has, you can hear him on Here District with his pops, another UCLA legend. And hey, go check him out. He's a 1995 UCLA national champ and a UCLA legend. Thanks for joining, Kris.
Thanks, Zach.
This has been Locked On UCLA. KJ and I'm Zach Anderson. Yoxsimer signing off saying, Go Bruins.